everyone. Welcome to the Living Heart Expo today. I'm really excited about a beautiful guest that I'm going to be chatting with today, Danelle C Baker. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Jewel. I'm a spiritual mentor for leaders in business, in industry, who are really ready to transition into their dream, whether it's a dream business, a dream new leadership position, and provide energetic support for high elevation and fulfillment. So today I'm going to be bringing on Danielle, and she is the founder of Being Connected E-Learning Incorporated. She's also an author. She is a podcast host. Hi, Danielle. I cannot wait to talk about what has brought her to this place of, and what has inspired her to do what she does in service of. Hello, Danielle. I was just talking about you.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I'm just getting an echo, so I'm just wondering.
There's a slight echo in your voice. Is it clear, or are you hearing an echo?
All right, let me just check. I think we got it now.
Okay, I can hear you. I can hear you.
No, I got it. I could hear your recording. Okay, let me try to get back on because it's like I'm getting getting what you were saying earlier for the intro. So let me just get back on, okay?
Okay, you bet. See you in a minute.
All right, hold on a second. That's so weird.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for Danielle, I'm going to share with you why I started this Living Heart Expo. I became really aware that it's so important for heart leaders to come together and to share their respective gifts. And I decided I wanted to have conversation, deep, rich, conscious conversation with those whose work is being done through the lens of the heart as well as mine, because that is truly the starting point. That is the origin point for all of my work. And I know that there are so many beautiful leaders, beautiful humans, beautiful artists, beautiful creators on this planet who are really working in service of reawakening the heart. And that is truly such a mission of mine, to reawaken the heart of humanity. And I know it's a huge mission, right? I believe that one heart at a time, we can all open, we can all come together, and in conversation, one conversation at a time, one heart at a time, one heartbeat at a time, we can hang on here. I thought I saw her joining, but not yet. So today I'm speaking with Danielle, and Danielle and I actually met through a speaking summit where we were both speaking, and we just connected. You know, when you interact and when you encounter, you're having trouble joining. Okay. Let me see if I can invite you. Okay, Danielle, invite. So I've just clicked an invite button. Maybe you'll see that and be able to come in this way. Let's see. If not, we can start all over again. But hopefully you'll be able to accept my invite here. Technology. Isn't technology a wonderful thing? It is a wonderful thing. It gives us so much access and so much opportunity to connect. Okay. Let me try that again. All right, I've invited you again, Danielle. You can clearly see me. Can you actually go to the little circle where it's telling me that you're unable to join. So, all right, I'm gonna pop off and then I'm gonna pop back on again. So let's both pop off and let's try this again and hopefully the sound will be, hang on. I've just accepted you to join.
Oh, hold on.
Yay!
I'm loving this technology thing today. Hold on.
Yeah.
Welcome to my little corner there. All right. Uh,
Oh,
Hey.
is is
This
the
is,
is the sound okay this time?
yes, it's much better. For some reason, I was still getting the live feed, but and there's a couple of seconds of delay, so I apologize. It happened the last time I
Okay.
joined a live. I had the same issue. It's so strange. I'm not sure
Okay.
what's
Well, I
going
can
on.
hear you really well.
Good.
You hear me really well too?
Very well. And hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I've just had
All
I
good.
made I made quite the entrance there.
Well, you are beautiful and you deserve a really grand entrance.
Uh,
So here you go. Thank you for entering. I'm so glad that you're here. And I was talking about you. I was introducing you and letting people know. And I'd love to hear more from you about how you arrived to this place of this being connected e-learning Inc. I'm really curious about you sharing that, and I'd also really love to hear about like what is it about the heart that inspires you. We've named this chat raising heart-centered kids. And I feel so, this is so close to my heart and yours. Obviously, you're in the field, you're an ECE, an educational, what does ECE stand for?
it's a
Educational
it's early childhood educator. Yeah.
early childhood educator.
Yeah.
Yes. And you've written books. And so I want to hear all about it. And what has brought you to this place of working through the lens of the heart?
Sounds good. I could go on forever with that, so
I
you'll
know.
have to kind of pull me in when I need to
Okay.
to pull back. But yes, actually, being connected started off. I was in early childhood education. I was daycare principal or a daycare supervisor for quite a bit, so close to 20 years. And so overlooking everything for early childhood, but all the way through school ages as well. So, of course, with the education system, there is some work to be done in how we show up for children, how we can support the families, and you kind of roll with it. You don't have a choice, so you have to roll with the punches. And it just started to get harder and harder with change in policies, change in laws, uh, moving us away from the child and the human and towards administration, paperwork,
Mm,
reports, and started finding myself often when I had to go handle a situation but having to follow policies, I find myself saying, now I need to go and be a robot. And that's when I started feeling, how can I say that? That's when the burnout, I had a professional burnout. I can say this is kind of the beginning of where it started really snowballing from that disconnection with the families where you want, I mean, in early childhood, in any part of education, we want to support families. That is our mission. That's what we do it for, right? We want to support the children, we want to support the family and the community. But these policies were pulling us away from that human. This is where the heart-centered part of it comes in. So after the burnout, I realized that there wasn't much I could do in the school settings or in the daycare settings to really help the families the way they needed to be helped, especially for families with neurodivergent children where they already kind of don't. I would say any child right now doesn't really fit into an education system, but specifically neurodivergent children because the program is really not tailored for them. So I realized that it was time for me to pull away and start my business so that I can then have a say on how I'm going to support these families and how I can help them the way that they need to be helped. So put the focus back on the parents. The parents know their children and they can make the right decisions, and just kind of give them the tools that they need. So that's how it started, being connected, meaning being connected with your community, with people, but also being connected with yourself. Recovering from a professional burnout, I had some healing to do from there. So of course, all of that fun inner work as I'm building a business. So it's kind of the double meaning of the company. And that's where I started with the book, kind of a guide. I do have it here. Well, it's behind me right here. But this is my book. It's kind of a guide for parents, but for educators and teachers as well, to kind of help them through how to show up the way we actually want to show up for children.
Mhm.
And kind of how it all started for me.
So, so important, such important work, the children of our future. And I mean, we hear that all the time, but how do we navigate that when the kids are led by and exposed to a system that isn't working and also isn't holistic, in my opinion, isn't holistic enough to really consider the whole kid, like the whole person. And so this book that you've written is for educating parents, correct? It's for the parents to really support their kids in becoming whole, heart-centered.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's,
And you were just
it's
in New York for your book launch too.
Yes, that was
Congratulations.
uh, that was a cherry on top, and I mean, I have to plug in my publisher here with Lucky Book Publishing, but a month to the day from the time my book was launched, uh,
Okay.
I, I was in New York. There was a networking event for authors and publishers as well, but had my big face and my book on a billboard on Times Square.
I
So that was just absolutely surreal. I'm still not, it's still a dream. It's been 3 months since the book has come out,
know.
and I'm still floating. Like, it's still kind of surreal. I have to ground myself when I'm doing my work because I still can't believe this is happening. And the feedback that I've been getting also, it's the kind of thing where it's like they're actually talking about my book, and it's strange. And I mean, you have a book as well, so you know exactly what that's like when you're getting that feedback to say this is helping me, and this
Yeah.
is really the whole point.
Yeah.
So
Everywhere.
yeah. Yeah, and it's again just the fact that they're reading my book, like it's my book. I have to come up with that. But yes, it's really just the book itself is to help put the focus back where it needs to go, and of course that's the children. But on the side of the parents is to put the really, parents are often in survival mode, and this is kind of the reason why I started working with parents more than with children. I can work with children all the time. Children are very resilient, very adaptable, so they can get through it. But then when handing them back to parents who are just surviving and don't have the resources, or they feel alone, or they feel inadequate, there's this all that slew of emotions that goes through as parents. So it's just to tell me, how do you want to show up as a parent? What challenges are you facing that's keeping you away from that? So when we're talking about raising heart-centered children, children are naturally heart-centered. They're born that way. They're in the now.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't have prejudices. They may kind of look at things when it's different, when they're not used to it. They kind of look at it, but once you explain to them what's going on, they're fine with it. It's the adults that are kind of messing that up for them as they grow. So it's really just to talk about healing, because what you don't heal in yourself will show up in your parenting. Our children are triggering us when they're kind of hitting a point that we haven't quite addressed in ourselves yet. And so it's really just to help the parents to figure out where their triggers are, where they need to do that healing. So we're not transferring that over to our children, and and how to communicate with and figuring out how their children learn, what they actually need to have a healthy development, not what we think that they need, or not trying to give them what we wish we would have had as children, because they're not from the same world. They're not, in the same world as we were. So it's to divide that and just empower the parent to say, I know my child, and how do I communicate that to the schools to make sure that my child gets what they need to.
Mhm.
So that's where it starts with the book.
That's incredible. That's so incredible. And you're so right. Like as parents, and I say we, myself included, we have these visions and these dreams for our kids, and there's this expectation or perception of how we think they should be. And, the irony is that there's the best interest at heart,
Yeah,
and yet it backfires because it's sending the message that they don't know,
yeah.
that they aren't already wholeheartedly fully aware of who they are. They're not naturally creative and resourceful and whole in their own right. And I think that's a real deprogramming it needs
Mhm.
to happen, because without your work and the kind of work that is across the board with kids, without this kind of work, kids grow up to be the adults who require the deprogramming. And I think all human beings require this deprogramming, because we're born in a pre-programmed environment from the day that we're born. So I feel that work like this is so important, and the sooner the better. you know so what kinds of, like, what would be the number one challenge that you've seen parents having who are in burnout, under pressure, feeling anxious, feeling pulled in a thousand different directions? And how do you suggest that they can help themselves to rebalance and recalibrate so that they can be fully present
Mhm.
for their kids?
That is such an important question, because you're right. It really starts with the parent. And I never used to like the fact that when you go into therapy or counseling, they always say, well, it must be the mother's fault or the father's fault. But it really comes down to a generational pattern, right? Children
Yeah.
learn from our behaviors. They don't learn from what we teach them with words. So the first thing I would say for parents, especially when they're in that survival mode and they're just they feel like they're being sloshed around in an ocean, with it just at the mercy of the waves, is to go back to the basics and reevaluate what your core values are. Your core values are who you are. It's your essence. It's really what uh, your constitution is, how you're made up. So, and they may change along the way with different life experiences, but everybody wants to be loved, but what does that love mean to you? Everybody wants to be respected, but what does respect mean to you? And when we go into burnout or stress or anxiety or anything like that, it's almost all the time due to the fact that there's something going against your core values. So, and it's something that we're not taught. We learn about values. We learn about, as if when it comes to culture, religion, anything, we talk about these values, but we don't know what to do with them because that's not taught. So I kind of started going from there, because in my new role as an administrator and supervisor in daycares, though all administration, we were talking about organizational values, our mission, our vision. We were all focused on that, but we're not focusing on the child. So businesses review their values, their organizational values, every strategic planning. We should be doing the same to say, are we still on track? So for parents, it's a really long explanation, but for parents or anybody, and this is transferable to any aspect of your life, not just with your parenting. It could go with your finances, with your relationships, with your business. But what are my core values? How do I want to show up as a parent? What are my values towards that? And what values am I taking on that actually don't suit me? It's just values that's just the way it was at home. This is how I was raised. Okay, but does that still work for you? I'll give you an example. For us, grew up in a very small, tiny little village that was all Catholic, and my parents were divorcing. So already there, we were aliens. The strong value of you cannot, it doesn't matter the situation you're in, it's still till death do you part. And so obviously that value was not going to be able to be carried over to us because it didn't suit our reality. So it's something that you go through. And that will help you when making decisions to say, does this feel right? Am I being triggered right now? If I'm being triggered, it's probably going against my values. And so you start with that, reevaluate, declutter your values. Are those really mine, or is that just because it was passed down to me? And with your partner, the other parent as well, that no matter what your situation is in your family portrait, you kind of, if you are able to, is to say, okay, this is how I need to show up. How do you need to show up, and how can we make that work so we're not scarring our child for life? And this is also when a lot of parents right now are following trends when it comes to parenting, right? It was all like that. All of a sudden, it's just timeouts is the only way to sort of, quote unquote, discipline your child. You know, there's so many. Once you're clear on your values, once you're clear on how you want to show up for your child, and once you're confident that there's not one parent out there that wakes up in the morning and say, how can I hurt my child the most today? You know, it's just, if it happens is because we are trapped in our wounds. And it just, like I said, if we don't heal, it'll show up in our parenting. So how do I transfer that over? How can I use that to make the right decisions for my child and kind of block out the background noise, especially with social media, of how you're supposed to raise your child, what kind of activities they're supposed to do, what kind of books are they supposed to be reading? You cut all of that out and just make it work for you. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. You have to
Mhm.
keep up with yourself so you don't burn out.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the noise is yes, it's social noise, cultural noise, media noise, and all of that. And there's the noise. There's the internal noise of your thoughts. And to me, it's like when we can drop out of that, out of the head and into the heart.
Yeah.
That to me is the most crucial skill that a human being can learn in this life. And yes, it requires the inner work, and it requires, being aware of how you think, because how you think and speak dictates the quality of our lives, literally. And because I always it always comes back to heart. And if and as the parent can come back to heart and remain heart centered as much as possible, because let's face it, parenting is difficult and it's easy to fly off the handle, or to go down a rabbit hole, or to divert, and go on a side quest. But the intention of always coming back to heart, which to me is like the heart of your values. And values are who we are, right? They are they are the quality and the fabric of ourselves. And so to come back to your values is really to come back to the heart. And I feel like the more as a parent we model this kind of returning and reclaiming and remembering. Oh yeah. And I often say to people, like, just literally put your hand on your heart so that your human can experience the touch, the pressure, the act of actual honoring that there's a heartbeat there. And I remember, my kids are older now, they're adults, but I remember when I was driving them to school and I would say things like, I'd say, have a great day. Oh, I'll try. And I'd say things like, just work, just come from your heart, just work from your heart, just be in your heart. And at that time, I didn't really understand to the degree that I do now what that meant and the power of that, and the value system around the heart qualities like kindness, respect, caring, love, gratitude, compassion, um, tolerance for indifferences, all of those things. And there's so much woven into all of this. And you said simple, come back to the basics. And really, how basic is it for us to just put our hand on our heart and come back to our heart? But we forget, right? We forget.
Yeah. And
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay.
That's what I mean by getting sloshed around with the background noises. If you're not taking that time just to, it could take a half a second. And
Yeah.
that even I do that often. I often put my hand on my heart.
Yeah.
Just the act of putting it there, just even if you're able to take a couple of breaths, it really does drop. You can feel it because when I say I'm in my head, it's just like everything is spinning and then just automatically just brings it down. And doing that is teaching your child to do it as well because they're going through a lot. They're being sloshed around, but they can't say no. They need to follow. So it teaches them already. We're giving them a head start in this as we're trying to figure this out in our adult years, and we have years of patterns to unravel. They can get a head start early, and like you say, let's keep it in the heart. What is your heart telling you? What is that little voice? That how
Yeah.
does it feel? Does this feel
Yeah.
right or does this feel wrong? Those are the kind of conversations you can start having even with the little ones. They are very, very receptive, or they're very uh, they feel that nonverbal language, the energy around them. So they will understand when you're taking, what does that little voice say inside them? We're not telling them they're crazy, but we're just saying, listen to your heart. What is it telling you? Your heart will always give you the truth. It's your head that gives you stories, but your heart gives you the truth. And listen to them because they can teach us so much. They are in the now. They are in the moment. They already are heart centered. So when things used to get hectic at work, I would just go and hang out in the preschool room for an hour or so, and
Best
I would,
therapy there is.
that's the best therapy. And it's when I stopped, because I was more administration and I couldn't go into the classrooms anymore. That's when the burnout started because they keep you in the moment and they keep you real. And they'll call you out on your stuff if you're telling too many stories. So it's great to spend time with your kids. Be there, present. Forget the devices. Just be there, and you'll see right away the weight is just off of your shoulders, and you can think clearly in that moment. And it's a beautiful gift.
Is it ever, and we live in such an interesting time with so much access to devices, and that kids are um, having access to these devices earlier and earlier and earlier. And I believe that it literally changes something in their brain. It alters something in their brain. And, so nature, play, outdoors, fresh air, mountain
Yeah,
air, fields, flowers, rivers, trees.
yeah,
Um, and
that,
it reminds me about the fact that Mother Nature speaks, like trees sing, mushrooms talk and sing, and it's this. And we, like our human ears, can't hear the wisdom of Mother Nature. And when you tune into your heart, it's the same thing. It's unspoken, it's invisible. You can't literally hear it with your human ear, but you have this felt experience. And I believe that nature is something that offers us a very similar thing because it has its own heartbeat.
yes,
Mother Earth has her own heartbeat. Like there's so much here around the heart.
there's
I could
so
talk
much.
about the heart for
And
years.
forever. I
Days.
know and for parents or just anybody in general, but when you're too much in your head, and this is something that we see so much now more than ever, uh, and you can't even stop for a second, or you can't stop the noise in the head for a second to hear nature. Asking your children what they hear. You take them for a walk at the park and say, okay, what are you hearing? They're going to take you into that magical world. You don't have to think too hard. We make things too complicated for ourselves. Our kids will teach us. And as we're speaking, I'm just getting goosebumps because it was often that. I was like, what do you think if mushrooms could speak? What would they say? Or, what are those birds? What do you think is happening there? What do you think, touch this tree and what do you feel? And they their mind is just so their imagination is just so magical that they bring you into their world, and that's how you get to know your child as well. When I was saying earlier, you think your child is a certain way, but when you get them to open up like this, and this is why it's so important to be present, no devices, no phone, no, but give them time to talk. And it may take a
Yeah.
while because they're not used to talking, but give them that chance and they will open up and you'll see a whole new side of your child you didn't even know.
I think that's really, really, really key and important is giving them the airtime that they deserve, and catching yourself when you're pursuing your own agenda. The thing that you think should happen in your timeline. And I'm saying you, but us as
Mhm,
parents, even as parents to adults, and just really like allowing them to be and to speak and to express in their way, even if it seems quite unpleasant.
mhm.
There's something that needs to move through them. So allowing that. Otherwise, they're going to shut down. Otherwise, not going to talk to you. Otherwise, they're going to go to their room as soon as they get home from school. Otherwise, the communication lines get kinked. And, that magic, that childlike magic that we all have as children that gets unmagicked out of us, you
Yeah.
know, it just it gets siphoned. And in the line of work that I'm in, one of the most rewarding things, the most rewarding things, is to facilitate and witness someone coming back home to their childlike magic and reigniting that beautiful heart space, reigniting the wonder and the awe and the appreciation for how the little bugs move, or whatever it is. But we, as a result of losing that childlike magic, it's why those of us who are here to support
Mhm.
adults to come back to their magic, that there's no greater to me, and I'm very biased, yes, but there's no greater way to be of service.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
bring
And
back the magic.
yes, we need it. And I mean, of course, it's not like the hocus pocus thing, but to
No.
bring back that inner child. And I know exactly what you mean. And it's beautiful to see it when it comes back to the person. That their face, like the whole body changes. They just light up, they shine all of a sudden. And it's beautiful to see. And children are naturally like that. If you think of you're at the
Mhm.
mall and you see a little child just smiling or cooing at you, you automatically just, you're not thinking about all your problems, but uh, it's the same. We can still have that in us. It's just like you said, it's been kind of taken away from us, but we don't want to take that away from our children either. We want them to be able to go back to that
Yeah.
that inner child to when times get tough. I mean, we can't protect our children from everything when they grow up, but to give them the tools to say, okay, this is how you can recover. Don't
Mhm.
lose yourself. Don't lose yourself in this, and give them a
Remember.
fighting chance. Yeah.
Yeah. And the the tools that you're talking about are so essential. These skills and tools that we're helping our children develop around listening, deep listening, and trusting, and taking action from that trusting place as opposed to from the place of what they feel is expected. And I feel that because the heart is an electromagnetic force field, it literally,
Yeah.
it is magnetic. When, as a parent, we come back to heart, we reconnect with our own inner magic, we remember the innocence,
Yeah.
that it actually emanates a frequency. It's a heart frequency. It's a magnetic field. And so our field amplifies around us, and the children who are in our vicinity can feel that we have come back to heart. And it gives them permission to relax, to come back to heart, to, reclaim their own piece of magic. And so this is really, I feel, an important thing to remember for all of us, is the power that our heart has to influence those who are around us.
Yes.
And we've all seen this where, let's say you walk into a room and it's just thick with tension, and you walk in without allowing your energy to be skewed by that, and walking in your presence, in your fullest authentic expression, and watching the room relax,
Yeah.
watching the people in the room relax, watching the people in the room come towards you and gravitate towards you by virtue of you staying in that heart center. And the same goes with the kids.
Yes. Well,
They want to be around you.
yes, we see that a lot in daycares. I'm kind of glad you brought that up because that is something parents don't realize, but we're so rushed in the morning.
Yeah.
Hurry up, we're late, and this and that. And we're eating in the car or getting angry because you're not eating or just, where's your shoe? All of that. And the kids would come to us in the morning. You could tell their body was already all tensed up. There's an immense stress, and parents are leaving, blah blah blah, and then they're off they go, and it would just take that time, a minute, to just kind of give the child a big hug, and you could tell they were all like, shoulders up, and then you just kind of feel them kind of
Yeah.
finally,
Yeah.
and it'd be like, we're gonna have a good day today. It was and
Yeah.
they do feel it when you're giving them that time. But in a daycare setting, when you have 30 of them coming at you and everybody's like, rah, 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 if you cannot yourself as an adult take that time to say, okay, we
Ground.
need to tone it down, because the higher we go, they come and match our energy. Like you say, it's
Totally.
an electromagnetic field. We're
Yeah.
attracting like magnets. So if we're able to kind of take it down, they'll come down with us. And it
Mm,
just makes it that much easier. So it's the same with parents. I know it's hard in the morning. I've gone through it,
yeah.
and let's just say, okay, let's do our breathing in the car on the way there. Or I used to crank up the music, and I'm a horrible singer, so my game with my kids, instead of trying to sing and sound nice, my game with the kids was, let's butcher the song, like let's make it the who has the
Oh,
worst
yeah.
voice, right? And so we'd just be completely out of tune and everything, and it was a game. So it was, by the time they got to school, they were a bit, it was better. I felt better, and they felt better as well. So you're
Yeah.
right that vibration that we emit, no matter what emotions we are, the heart one is the most beautiful one. And if you've seen the scans, you can kind of look it up online as well. They when they scan people, when you come into the heart frequency, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we want that?
Well, we all do,
Yeah,
we all do.
exactly.
And it's what is the pathway to get there? And this is why we do the work that we do. And,
Yeah.
yeah, it really, really is so, so important.
Yeah.
Um, and so I feel like I say this with everyone I talk with, because I love these conscious heart-led conversations, and I feel like we could go on
Oh
in so
yes.
many different tangents together, and perhaps we will talk more. Um, and so, if someone would like to, number one, get a hold of your book, or
Yes.
someone would like to contact you, what is the best way for someone to have more conversation with you specifically? And if you're tuning in today and you have any questions, please feel free to type in your questions. And Danielle and I are both on Instagram, both on Facebook, I believe.
Mhm.
And what is the best way for people to get a hold of that beautiful book of yours and connect
I
with you?
I think for the book, the easiest one is through Amazon, because it's available, you know,
Okay.
eh, globally on Amazon. There's Barnes and Noble as well, and there's some independent bookstores in the area. But if depending on the demographic of the people that are tuning in, even for the replay, you could always contact me as well, and I can let you know where it is available. But Amazon is definitely one of the best. You can look it under my name, Danielle C Baker, or you could just look up. It's Bringing Up the World. It's backwards. My camera
Okay.
is
Bringing up
with
the world.
Bringing Up
Yeah.
the World, and it's how to finally focus on what matters and watch the child bloom. So it's a long subtitle, but Bringing Up the World should come up. Yeah, and for me, yeah, honestly, if you go on my website at beingconnected.ca, you'll get some information. But I am on all social media. So, yes, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. My email is Danielle at beingconnected.ca. So, again, you can contact me and I'll get back to you. But if you wanted, I do also offer programs for the values part, where you want to declutter your values and find your values. I take it a step further, not just for parenting, but I work on 8 different areas of your life. So it could be spirituality, business,
Mhm.
leisure, finances, and your environment, even your home. That has a big effect, not just your home, but your office, your garage, your car. Are they reflecting your values, right? So if you're in conflict with your values, you're not going to feel right. So there's that, and then there's also learning styles, how you can find out how your child learns,
Mhm.
and then you can report that to the school and work with the school in order to help
Mhm.
your child have the best experience in school as well.
I just love what you're doing, honestly. I love that you've stepped out of the mold and you've stepped out of the
Yeah.
structure, the traditional structure, and and hats off to you because it requires courage, to
Hmm.
step out of what's the status quo and create something of your own that is so aligned with your values and with your desire for bringing up the world,
Yeah.
in a different way. And I absolutely love what you're doing. Part of me wishes I had met you when my kids were little and it was hard and wasn't, just some support there would have been just so great. I had support, but
Yeah.
for anybody who is in that spot right now, I feel like what you're doing is really, really revolutionary. And it's outside the box. You're not trying to fit into some kind of mold. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
I
done
just,
with the boxes. I don't fit in a box. I never did.
I
So,
know.
but I,
That's
I
what I
too
love about
wished
you. Yeah.
I, I wished as well when I was a parent. I mean, I talk a great talk right now, and I can help as a third party. You come in, you can see and you can help. When you're in it, you don't see it, and that's the survival mode, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that I kind of mentioned in my book. There's things I wish I would have known, uh,
But
but that's part of growing.
how you came to know them was by not knowing them.
Yeah,
So nothing is ever wasted. Like
exactly.
and I always, I think this is a really great way to kind of complete is to say that there's no need for regret. There's no need for feeling bad for having not known what you haven't known in the past,
Yes.
because it's as a result of that you are growing and that you're expanding and that you're coming to be who you are and know what you now know. And so it's all been an investment
Yeah.
in who you're becoming as a human being, as a parent, as a leader, as a as a creator. So is there anything that you would like to leave as a final
Yeah.
message for the listeners before we say bye?
What I'd like to say, I think, in this kind of context is to tell anybody, not just parents, but specifically parents, you are a great parent. If you're concerned about your parenting, if you're concerned of how well your children are doing, you're a good parent. So just trust that you know your child better than anybody, and that all the decisions that you make come from love. So already your child is winning, right? And so be kind to yourself,
Love.
and just make sure you're going to do, like you said, is you can only do as good as you can with what you have at that moment. So, keep growing, keep uh,
Mhm.
teaching your child whatever it is that you're learning in the process. Teach it to your child. You're giving them a head start for what life has for them. So let's break those patterns, those generational patterns, and it starts
Yeah.
with, I always say, it's going to end with me. Let's tackle those. It's not easy, but that's where the support is. So be kind to yourself. Know that you are a good parent, and you can't do this alone. So yes, there's people there to help you to build the village that you need to help yourself and help your child.
I love that. I love that. I so love that. And deep, deep, deep listening. you know, that, and yeah, the inner work is just so, so key. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That was so fun. We'll
Thank
do
you,
it
Jewel. I
again.
just so
All
happy
right.
we got to connect, and I love the work that you do. Of course, it goes very well in line, and
Yeah.
I love your nature. We're talking about nature. I just see when you're going skiing, and I miss skiing so much, and that was one of my best parts. Your mind is clear when you're going in the ski
Yeah.
lift, and you're cold. You can't think of anything else. It's
I know.
quiet. I love
Yeah.
the work that you do. So thank you for
Thank you.
offering this platform to share all this and help people as much as we can.
Thank you so much, Danielle. All
Thank
right.
you.
Much love. Bye bye.
Bye.